Now, I'd like to focus in today's debate on the effects of climate change and monetary policy. As you said, Madam, the effects of climate change that we are already beginning to feel mean that we have a perspective of more volatility likely in terms of the changes to inflation and inflationary spiraling related to climate change. And one of the measures potentially to fight climate change, at least from a fiscal standpoint or from a budgetary standpoint, would go through the implementation, for example, of the energy tax directive. In the medium term, energy costs should integrate CO2 emissions and energy costs, but because of the war, because of energy prices, the political discussion on that has been slowed down both in the Parliament and the Council. Therefore, my question would be, how can we combine this? How can we do such? At what point can we take these measures to factor in the text to fight climate change, considering the fact that there would be an inflationary impact in the short term? In the medium term, we would hope that this would contribute to the fact that we would be able to efficiently fight climate change. So the increase in energy prices in the short term and the impact that would have on inflation, and then in the medium term, a reduction or an impact on inflation, in a scenario in which we know that there would be an impact on inflation. So how would you assess this? The short-term things that we need to do, but with a look to the medium term and the impact that would have on inflation and on fighting climate change. How would you combine those two? Thank you.
We can only operate, each of us, you, us, governments, Commission, Council, in the areas and with the competence and within the mandate that were given to us. But I would agree with your characterization of the fact that externalities are not actually included in prices in many instances, and that it would be a prerequisite to insert externalities by way of either a tax or a price signal of some sort. ETS comes to mind, for instance, as another example of how you can include the externalities back into the prices of energy and every other product that includes energy components. Now, as far as we are concerned, we have to, of course, take into account these climate change-related impacts in the assessment that we make of the economy, in the price expectations that we have. And I would also agree, and this is not something where there is complete agreement, and I think economists tend to not completely rally around one single assessment of the situation, but there is a large number of those who will say that, at least in the short term, there is an inflationary aspect of the fight against climate change. Not in very significant amount if I look into the accounts that have been provided by our researchers and by our economists, but slightly increasing over the next 3 to 5 years. And then in the medium term, a disinflationary effect, as of course the marginal unit of energy and prices related to them are cheaper than what they would otherwise be. But that's what we have to take into account in the models that we use, in the macroeconomic assessment that we form. And it's not for us to make any kind of decision concerning the tax that would eventually apply or the price embedding that would be required if we want to take into account all externalities. Thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you. Just an additional question. Madam, you spoke of improving the European economy's resiliency And as you know, the Union is working on redefining its industrial policy in terms of strategic autonomy that has come following COVID and the effects of the war in Ukraine. My question would be the potential inflationary impact of this new industrial policy. Does the ECB have an assessment or an opinion or any type of an evaluation as to how reactivating European industrial policy could have an impact on prices derived from better competitiveness or subsidies, sectoral subsidies? How do you think that this new industrial policy could complicate, yes or no, European monetary policy? Thank you.
I think the honest answer to your question is no, because we don't really know what the industrial policy will look like, how much subsidies it would imply, what kind of Inflation Reduction Act will be proposed. I understand that you will be hearing from the commissioner in charge of those issues after me, so it's a good occasion to better understand exactly what it will be about. From our vantage point and, participating in Eurogroup on an extensive basis, there is certainly one aspect that is, in our view, critically important, and that is the capital market union. Because it's clear that, the 650 billion euros needed per annum in order to accomplish the green transition and the 125 billion necessary to accomplish the digital transition, that the combination of these two will not be provided on public finances. Whether it's on a regional compounded basis, whether it's at the national level, it simply will not be enough, given the other priorities that prevail as well. And that's the reason why I very strongly believe that the Capital Markets Union has to proceed, has to move forward, and has to do so as quickly as possible, including with a slightly different approach that I have called the Kantian shift to Capital Markets Union, with really focusing on those areas that will deliver something, both from a regulatory, from a supervision, and from an infrastructure standpoint. Those are critically important. Financing mechanism, calling on the private sector financing, and in that case, which will hopefully improve the competitiveness and the delivery of the green and digital plans for Europe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Stephanie Yancourtin for Renew.
Présidente, Madame la Présidente,
Thank you, Chairman.
merci pour votre présence aujourd'hui.